Last year, the Chiefs announced they would retire War Paint, their live, horsey mascot, in an effort to stop using Native American imagery, because that's how you make up for genocide. Thank you for your service, War Paint. Best of luck to you on your future endeavors. Andy Reid got his 100th win as Chiefs head coach, and I assume his own factory in Hawaii to make shirts. At this point, he's set to retire as a corpulent, Polynesian-themed Willy Wonka. The team went 12-5 and won the division. Unfortunately, after snaking one in overtime from the Bills, the Chiefs fell to the Bengals in overtime the very next week, just shy of another Super Bowl. Karma is a sassy math teacher. In the offseason, the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins for a bunch of draft picks and a pack of cools. Hello everybody, welcome to Shut Up Football. I'm Jeff Stoltzfus, that's Kevin. In this episode, we can't shut up about the Chiefs. This roster is churning like an Amish on meth. We'll discuss how that vicious friction affects your fantasy team. We're talking about the 2022 Kansas City Chiefs. Who is the Tyreek Hill replacement? I'll show you, but you're not going to like it. Plus, a vet that should get more touches but probably won't, and an undrafted free agent I am low-key excited about. And now it's time for a breakdown. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best, if not the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But last season was a bit lumpy, which had people asking,
what is the problem with Patrick Mahomes right now?
Fair question, my dudes. He was making some very strange decisions. Then again, we're talking about a guy who makes no-look passes. He was throwing some pretty ugly interceptions. He's only had 37 career interceptions, but 35% of them came last year. Granted, some weren't his fault. A few bounced off receivers' hands and straight to defenders. On the year, he had 13 interceptions. That's double what he had the 2 years prior, but by no means the worst in the league. Mahomes self-created over 24% of the pressure he faced in 2021, highest in the league. Self-created meaning he could have, he should have, but he didn't. Fortunately, he's got the wheels to run for his life, and a lot of his big throws come after the play has broken down. None of this is to detract from Mahomes. If anything, it's kind of scary to know he has room for improvement. And though his fantasy numbers were down, he still finished in the top 5 in fantasy. I'm not worried about the loss of Tyreek Hill. Hill was an amazing weapon, but Andy Reid has coached and won a lot of games without him. And even when the plan breaks down, you can trust Mahomes to create on his own. That's why you pay him so much money he can fill a swimming pool with $100 bills, light it on fire, and still buy Greenland. Chad Henne is the backup. He's 37 years old. If Mahomes is a finely tuned sports car, Henne is that old rusty pickup truck hiding in the tall grass in your backyard. It'll get you to town and back, but there's a rip in the seat and a spring that keeps poking you in the nuggets. I can't imagine a world where Mahomes goes down and you want Henne in your lineup. Shane Buechele is an undrafted free agent out of SMU. He was on the practice squad last year. Dustin Crum is an undrafted free agent out of Kent State from this year. I'd expect both to be cut prior to the season and one of them to join the practice squad. Patrick Mahomes in all formats. Nobody else, anywhere. There doesn't appear to be much of a fire to invest in the backup position in KC. So goes Mahomes, so goes the season. And so goes any Chiefs pass catcher's value on your fantasy team. So maybe invest in some rosary beads or buy some State Farm or something. Oh well, hi! Be a pal and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Like the video and click the bell. I have nothing to incentivize you. I'm not selling anything. I'm not giving anything away. I have no idea what I'm building here. There's nothing but static and barking dogs up here. Ooh, ice cream? Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
The D is silent.
Actually, it's the H, but whatever. They said the lead back in Andy Reid's offense would be a fantasy star. They said that volume would exceed talent. They said he was better than Brian Westbrook. He's been pretty disappointing since being drafted in the first round. Last year, he produced quality fantasy numbers in only about a half dozen games. He was second in rushing yards and rushing attempts for the Chiefs. He missed 8 games with a clavicle injury and an MCL sprain. Plus, prior to the season, he had surgery after his gallbladder stopped working. Do you need that for football? Does it do something? He lost a ton of weight, which is great for bikini thirst traps on Insta, but not so great for a collision sport. He ain't dead yet, but that hasn't stopped people from shoveling dirt on him. I liked him coming out of college. I won't act like I didn't. He has yet to top 1,000 yards or play a full season. When he is on the field, he averaged about 4.3 yards per carry, which is actually pretty good. He's never had great speed. Shifty elusiveness is his game, simple cuts and power. Remember when he got flagged for pointing at a guy? Man, shit was crazy back in 2021. He's either the perfect buy low candidate ready to break out or another year lost to a committee and injuries. He might be in the driver's seat to start, but you gotta wonder about just how much was added behind him this year. Faster backs? Better pass-catching backs? Edwards-Helaire needs to show out early because his workload is going to be nibbled on by some fresh little piranhas. Currently, his ADP sits around 60th overall, just before the likes of Miles Sanders and Devin Singletary. The Chiefs signed Ronald Jones II in free agency back in March, making it seem like a priority. He was drafted in the early second round by the Bucs in 2018. He's never topped 1,000 yards rushing. He couldn't stop the constant influx of rookie runners or beat Leonard Fournette. He disappointed in his rookie season, but after that, he showed improvement, averaging over 4.6 yards a carry. Unfortunately, Jones doesn't offer much as a pass catcher. He saw just 13 targets last year, down from 42 the previous year, because his catch percentage was under 70%. And Tommy no likey. The Chiefs like to throw a lot too, and Jones is unlikely to soak up any of that goodness. So his usage is limited to that of a change-of-pace handcuff. Probably a handful of carries per game, unless Andy decides to go with a hot hand approach. Barring injury, best case scenario, Jones would be the choice for early downs and goal line work. Worst case, he's a third of a committee and not the pass-catching option. Jones's ADP is 117th overall. Jerick McKinnon joined the team last year, but he was placed on injured reserve and wasn't activated until the last game of the season versus the Broncos. In his 3 playoff games, he had 150 yards rushing, 165 yards receiving, and a touchdown. And he looked damn good. I don't have much confidence Andy Reid is going to game plan for him. Likely, he's just another cog in the rotation, specifically for third down work. Despite being the oldest back here at 30, he's my favorite based solely on talent, and he's the cheapest, going the latest in all drafts. Derek Gore re-signed with the Chiefs this year. He's cheap. They like him. He'll get a few carries here or there, but mostly he's just depth. He's 27 years old. Leave the man alone. Isiah Pacheco was drafted out of Rutgers late in the 7th round. He ran a 4.37 40, fastest at the combine. He's now the fastest running back on the Chiefs. And at 5'10", 216 pounds, he's got the weight to fall forward. There's something funny about the way he bobs his head when he runs. Like his running backs coach was a velociraptor. He's got experience as a kick returner. You'd expect him to make the team for that, if nothing else. If he can show a decent pass catcher too, the runway is that much longer. Jerry Ely is an undrafted free agent. He comes out of Ole Miss where he split carries with Snoop Connor, who was drafted to the Jaguars. Ely is 5'8", 189 pounds. He's a good runner and a decent pass-catching back. If they run out of roster spots, I'd expect him to land on the practice squad. Tyon Fleet-Davis is another undrafted free agent out of Maryland. This backfield is messy. I wouldn't lean into it. I'm not interested in Clyde Edwards-Helaire at his current price. However, I've heard reports of leagues playing chicken with him, seeing how far he can fall before someone finally drafts him. If that happens in my league, call me Colonel Sanders. I can only stand so much value. And crispy chicken. I'll take Ronald Jones late in redraft. With CEH's injury history, there's a potential for RB1 numbers at some point this year. In Dynasty, continue to hold. He's 24 years old. He's in a prove-it year for his next team, and hopefully a bigger contract. Might as well see who that is, or if it benefits his trade value. I like McKinnon late in redraft, but more so in best ball. He may surprise and outperform, if only for a few weeks that even Nostradamus couldn't predict. Pacheco is a stash in Dynasty. I don't expect anything from him this year. He's a decent runner with great athleticism and next to no draft capital to inflate his cost. Jones and McKinnon are both on one-year deals. He could see meaningful touches next year. Juju Smith-Schuster signed with the Chiefs in March. It was a cheap, one-year deal for a receiver coming off an injury. He missed 12 games last year with a shoulder strain. Back in 2020, his fantasy numbers were top 25 for the position, just shy of 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. He can do it again. Remember, that was with the withered corpse of alleged sex offender Ben Roethlisberger tossing him the ball. Not that Mahomes is going to unlock some hidden magic from Juju we haven't seen before, but his 2020 numbers feel very achievable with the best quarterback in football. Mahomes has been one of the quarterbacks to target the slot position the most over the past 2 years. Smith-Schuster has primarily lined up in the slot, about 80% of the time. I don't love Juju, but some of that is because I can't tell if he has a really good sense of humor or if he's just a D-bag. I guess it could be both. His ADP is currently about 90th overall. Marquesz Valdes-Scantling was signed less than a week after Juju, bringing some much-needed speed to mitigate the Tyreek Hill departure. Over the last 3 seasons, he's had 7 40-plus yard touchdowns. That's tied for 4th most in the league. Guess who was first? Last year, he had only about 3 usable weeks of fantasy production. He missed time for strains to his back and hamstring. He's been poo-pooed in the past for dropping passes. It's something he's worked on, and though he only played part-time last season, he had 0 drops. He only earned a 14% target share on the Packers. That was second on the team. Davante Adams took 57% of the targets. Because, better. Tyreek Hill left behind a 32% target share. Some of that is going to MVS. Last year, Tyreek Hill had 25 targets with 20-plus air yards. That's what MVS was built for. Not the slot, not the short passes. Run far, run fast, stay tall, and Mahomes will find you. That's how they'll make up for some of the lost production. But don't hear what I'm not saying. He's not going to get Hill numbers overall. MVS's deal was for 3 years, $30 million. That's a truckload of dinero. Expect him to be involved in Kansas City. His ADP is currently about 90th overall, not far behind Juju Smith-Schuster. Skyy Moore was drafted in the 2nd out of Western Michigan. He's 5'10", 195 pounds. He runs a 4.4. Last year, he had over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. I wasn't that high on him coming into the draft. Not that I disliked him. I thought he was okay. But the hype train broke down my front door like a Thomas the Tank with rabies and kicked my teeth down my throat just for smiling. People love Skyy Moore. He's like the next Jesus or something. Calm down, you groupies. He's just a man. The Hill void is driving people to mad takes. Moore's best comp is Golden Tate. That I see. My favorite Skyy Moore quality is making tough catches. Not contested catches, but ones where he's falling to the ground. He's got phenomenal concentration. The best case for him is everything I said before about the slot position, because it's clear that Skyy is destined to fill that role here. Eventually. First, we have to get through the Juju year. The more I think about it, the more I'm in on Skyy Moore. Not because of the hype, but because of the role. If you could marry future Patrick Mahomes targets, you totally would. Put a bread maker on the registry and make fantasy toast. Mecole Hardman is still here. Remember that year he came into the league? He was going to be the next so-and-so whatever the fuck. Well, he wasn't. 4.3 speed, but a lack of deep targets? Only 13 all last year? His average depth of target was just 7.5 yards. Bringing in Juju and MVS is an indictment of Hardman. It was the equivalent of, we like you, but not like that. And yet, God help me, I kinda like him. All it would take is one tweet from Adam Schefter's sweaty fingers reading, Mecole Hardman shows up to camp with 10 extra pounds of muscle, and I'd be like, you son of a bitch, There's no tangible reason to believe he's going to be anything more than a part-time gadget player, like he's always been. And yet, I can't look away. Stupid sexy Hardman. The backups are Josh Gordon, Doris Fountain, Cornell Powell, Omar Bayless, Justin Watson, Gary Jennings, Corey Coleman, and undrafted free agent Justin Ross. I actually like a couple of these guys. Justin Watson is a guy to watch. Big, athletic. He just couldn't climb the Bucs' depth chart. Doris Fountain has some game. And Justin Ross, there are medical concerns, but he's talented. I like Juju Smith-Schuster in redraft this year. He could see a decent bounce back. I expect him to be a solid, steady contributor, but not an explosive one. He's not going to win your league, but I think you'll be happy that he's on your team, especially at cost. However, I'm out on him in Dynasty. With Skyy Moore in-house, I think Juju's one-year deal is just that. If you already have him in Dynasty, sell by the end of the season. I wouldn't want to follow Juju to a new team where he's catching passes from someone not named Patrick Mahomes. Hell yes, you should take Marquesz Valdes-Scantling in best ball. He's probably worth it in other formats too, but I'm too much of a coward to endorse it. Skyy Moore in Dynasty. If you want a piece of that sweet-ass Kansas City offense, Skyy Moore is your way in. Do you like years of fantasy production? You might as well have asked me if I like pie. Ooh, pie more. Anyway, Skyy Moore, or his role, might be too good not to invest in. However, he's going in rookie drafts in front of Jahan Dotson and George Pickens, guys I rated higher. Shake a magic 8-ball, Sally. Tough choices lie ahead. Mecole Hardman, you son of a bitch. No, I'm not in. But I will be leering at you from across the Wendy's parking lot, watching, waiting for a sign that it's okay to love again. Travis Kelce has been fantasy gold for a long time. Last year, he had all the numbers, even the stupid ones. He was second at the position behind Mark Andrews. He only missed one game. Is anybody fading this guy just because he's 32 years old? Lots of people are 32 years old. I was once 32 years old. He's averaged more than 137 targets over the past 5 years, had over 1,000 receiving yards the past 6 years straight. The only question worth exploring here is, how is the loss of Tyreek Hill going to affect Travis Kelce? Some believe he'll see a boost in targets, but that's kind of hard to believe considering he's already a major part of the offense, drawing the majority of targets. Other people think he'll see a decline due to heavier coverage and without Hill as a deep threat, but I doubt that too. Kelce already draws heavy coverage, and MVS and Mecole Hardman are just as likely to stretch defenses with their speed. Hill hasn't missed a lot of time. However, back in 2019, he was out weeks 2 through 5. In that span, Kelce averaged over 6 receptions and 87 yards per game, but no touchdowns. Small sample size, but it does support my notion that not much is going to change this year when it comes to Kelce. Blake Bell is the backup. He was originally drafted by the 49ers out of OU, where he got the nickname Belldozer. I'm not going to lie, that's pretty stupid. But I can't think of a better one right now, so Belldozer it is. He's a former quarterback. He converted to tight end late in his college career. He's used more for blocking or belldozing than pass catching. He's not fantasy relevant. Noah Gray was drafted last year in the 5th out of Duke. He's 6'4", 240 pounds. In high school, he played receiver and quarterback. He might have been selected late, but the Chiefs moved up to get him. In his rookie season, he had 7 receptions and 1 touchdown. Gray is an excellent pass catcher and very athletic. If Kelce were to miss time with an injury, I believe Gray would be the beneficiary of some of those vacated targets, but not the bulk of them. Jody Fortson started to come on last season before he tore his Achilles in week 6. He only had 5 receptions, but 2 of them were touchdowns. He was undrafted out of Valdosta State in 2019. He worked his way up from the practice squad. Depending on how and when he returns from injury, I could see him becoming the number 2 tight end here. He's 26 years old. Travis Kelce in all formats. Noah Gray for your watch list. I think he's a year or 2 away from fantasy production, if at all. Jody Fortson as a dynasty stash for the end of your bench. Defensive tackle Chris Jones had a pretty dismal year for fantasy last season, except for Week 11 versus the Cowboys. He lit them up for 3.5 sacks, a forced fumble and recovery, 4 tackles, and 1 pass defensed. Worthy of your watch list. Edge defender George Karlaftis was drafted late in the 1st round out of Purdue. The Greek Freak. The dude played water polo, and you know what that means. I like his power and his closing speed. He'll get immediate playing time. I wouldn't draft him right out of the gate. As good as he is, I wouldn't expect huge fantasy numbers in his rookie year. Be patient and watchful. Likely next year is the year to grab him for IDP. Linebacker Nick Bolton was drafted in the 2nd last year out of Missouri. He had the best fantasy numbers at the position for the Chiefs, but didn't crack the top 25. He will this year. He's a monster in the middle, and this year he's got the green dot. He'll be directing this defense on the field. If he's available in your league, get him. Rookie linebacker Leo Chanel and Willie Gay are also worthy of your watch list. Dr. Seuss character L'Jarius Sneed is a Chiefs cornerback that your watch list needs. You know I don't like cornerbacks for IDP, but Sneed finished in the top 20 at the position for fantasy points last year, and he didn't even play in 2 games. Safety Justin Reed was added in free agency to replace Tyrann Mathieu. No more Honey Badger. I guess now just regular Badger. Mathieu was inside the top 25 last year. Reed was considerably lower, but Reed has shown to be a valuable IDP asset in the past. Keep an eye on him. It's possible he's valuable again for the Chiefs. There's no point in guessing how many wins the Chiefs will get this year. Enough to see the playoffs? How's that? Sure, they lost a dynamic player, but their offensive additions were low-key smart. No one player fills all needs, but collectively, they do. They've added youth to their defense at all three levels. It was a very pragmatic, if not boring, offseason. Maybe sometimes that's okay. Thanks for watching Shut Up Football. We'll catch you next time. Peace!
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boy.
That's my Madden rating? Well, that can't be right. Get Madden on the phone. He's dead. Well played, Madden. Okay, this is what I need. I need a bottle of rum, a serpent, a dagger, and a Ouija board right now.